Yeah.
Okay, well, welcome. It is so nice to meet you. Uh, Normally I'd be like, okay, so you're a somatic psychologist, and I would just get to rolling. But something just asks me to pause and let you say in your own words what it is you do and why you do what you do.
Well, thanks, Melissa. I guess I do what I do because spirit helped me survive. I had I'll talk more about all this because it's where does our stress come from? How does it keep
Mm-hmm.
rolling through us? But I was so fortunate to have raised in the feeling of love. And from that feeling, my mom, was a Sunday school teacher and all that. And then years later, I had some huge stresses where my young adult life, I was, thinking I'm on my path. And we had, my partner and I bought a land in Maine that was way back in the boonies. And we built a log cabin with no electricity. And, you know,
Wow.
yeah, we had this real like pioneer life going. And I had animals and I had my big garden and we had a water powered furniture mill. We had rebuilt this old sawmill into a water powered furniture mill. So we were like the pioneers in my young, late 18, 19, 20. And then,
Wow.
yeah, it was so, and talk about spirit and nature. When you're out in nature a lot, it kind of, I think it just connects you to the world in a way that we forget when we're busy, all electronics. So I'm not saying anything against city living. I'm just saying that there's something when you pay attention to the space of nature, the sky, the clouds, the trees. So I had, 5 years of that, digging in the dirt,
Yeah.
I had a little business because we didn't have any money. So I was uh, canoeing onto this lake and trapping eels for the restaurant. So every morning at 4 in
Wow.
the morning, I would get up and I get in my canoe and I have my dog balanced on the canoe and we just go in the quiet dawn and paddle,
At
you know.
19 years old?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
so cool.
I know. I was so lucky. And, you know, I think I grew up with a mother. My mom was a single mom for a while because my dad died when I was 2.5. And so
Oh.
she had 3 little girls. And she taught us how to use tools. She bought us all little tool sets and we built stuff and we learned how to saw wood. So I was
Wow.
kind of following my mom's impulse. And then what happened in terms of the tragedy of that experience, there was so much beauty that happened, but the tragedy was my partner started drinking and the people we were coordinating this furniture mill with started, putting him on the bottom of the totem pole. And so he was drinking and I was like, I've never been around this. All of a sudden the person that I need to talk to at night and enjoy is slurring his words and
Yeah.
defending. He's like, oh, well, beer is food. If I drink a 6-pack a night, it's just food. And I'm like,
What?
right? I know. And I mean, I'm not stupid,
The way
but
we will justify our habits. Wow.
yeah. And so anyway, my grandma had a Kahlua recipe. So I was making Kahlua and I started noticing, I'm drinking one of these glasses of milk and Kahlua a day. Well, that's interesting. Why am I doing that? And then when I felt the urge for 2 a day, I went outside, took my bottle of Kahlua and I went outside and I poured it in the woods. And cause I could feel, we have choice points in life.
Yes.
And I could feel I'm on the edge of a choice point and I'm going to fall into the big black hole. And
Yes.
I just know that's not my path. And so that whole experience, my partner eventually, I was visiting my family in Florida to try to go, well, what do I do? Because I was like 22, 23 and I got a phone call. "Oh, the house has burned down." And I was like, "What?" And not on purpose, but my partner had burned the house down by forgetting to shut down the big stove, and he went off to the mill and, dry spruce logs burn up really fast.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, that's
anyway, I came
terrible.
back to this shocking experience of my whole life literally in ashes. And, we talk about spiritual renewal and, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. And there it was, this big rectangle of gray ash, which used to be my
Mm.
house. And I just went numb. I was like, well, we bought this land. We have to keep going. So within a few months, we had built another house. But inside, I was not good.
Mhm.
I was like, well, I'm doing the program, but this is not going to work because nothing outside was changing.
Yeah.
My partner wasn't changing his habits. And so luckily, I had to get money. So I started working on a fishing boat off Cape Cod. And so I'd go to Cape Cod for 3 weeks, come back to Maine the fourth week. So I'm like 23 now, working on a fishing boat, trying to get some money. And this is when I had a grace gift from God, because what happened is when I was coming in, we would fish for 4 days, and I would climb up this little metal ladder when we got back to the dock, and I would go sell lobsters because that was gravy money for the crew. So we came in, after 4 days, you're exhausted because I worked the back deck as well as, being the cook. I had 2 jobs. And so we get in the afternoon. I take my bushel, I walk across our boat and the swordfish boat, and then I get to this metal ladder. And it's like low tide now in New England. So it's like a 17-foot up to the top of the wharf. And so I am like climbing the ladder and got my bushel basket and up I'm going. I finally get to the top. I get my basket up over the cap rail, and I'm 23, so I'm strong enough. But I take hold of that ladder, and this is the part, Melissa, where I just let go. I was so worried all those times. I was worried about what are we going to do with the land. I was missing my animals that got killed. I was missing
Oh, yeah.
home. I was just emotionally confused and numb. And I just gave up in the middle of the air. And
Wow.
fortunately, what happened, I don't know why my spirit was that strong, or faith, or just grace of God. But as soon as I let go, my awareness, I was being held in love. And I was being held in a love that was so palpable. My perception was, well, this is what really matters, is this love. And if my body survives, I'll go back. If it doesn't, it doesn't matter, because this grace of love is what matters. And so feeling that, I was aware, I had this like hyper awareness, I guess. Now I know as a psychologist, it's actually a kind of dissociation,
Yeah.
right? But at the time, it was also like a spiritual.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we don't want to always label stuff like a bad thing. Sometimes our soul is like, hey, you need this.
Exactly.
Right? And so my body started, right next to the ladder underneath was this big water tank that had rebar welded on top. And I was like, I do not
I'm
want to.
so scared.
I know, right? Yeah. Luckily, I wasn't in my body to be that scared. I was
Yes.
love, but my body somehow it didn't fall straight down, but it moved. It was so graceful. It was like this spiral through the air. Time was timeless. Everything was slow. And there I went. And then my body landed right next to this water tank was an old tire leaned up. And my body bounced on the tire and I was back. And I was like,
Wow.
wow, this was at age 23. What just happened to me? And so I had to process that. Of course, I climbed right up my ladder because all the Fisher guys were watching me, and I didn't want them to think I was like a victim or anything.
Right, right, right. We don't
So,
need help.
all right. Or we don't need to be made fun of. That's the
Right.
best part. So I climbed up the ladder, but during that, I was aware of something profound. And I made a vow to myself at that age, I want to feel this much love inside my body.
Yeah.
And I want to understand this depth of spirituality because that's not ordinary reality, but it's real.
Right.
It's
Right.
real. It happened. Yeah. So that was the beginning of me finding the tools that would help me restabilize because
Yeah.
I was so worried about the commitments we had made and my partner I loved and all that, and so much full of grief and just an instant destructive loss with the
Yeah.
loss of our home. And I couldn't even hold a conversation very well because my brain was so worry that I could never relax. So
Yes.
I knew I was like, you're going to become homeless if you're not careful. Your brain,
Yeah.
yeah, your brain is unraveling. And so what I did, unfortunately, I had a sister out in California, all this stuff going on for healing out there. And she worked at a school that was Sufi based. Sufi's a meditation. It's a kind of faith meditative. It was
Oh, okay.
a school for healing. It was hands-on healing. It was meditation classes. And so I couldn't decide, should I go back to should I go back to school because I had dropped out of college? Should I go back? What? And she says, just come out here just come out here. And I was like, okay. And I had this, tiny little suitcase because everything had burned up.
Yeah.
And I went out there and these practices, Melissa, they were guided. Some meditation, they say, just empty your mind. There was no way I could have done that.
No, didn't work for me either. Yeah.
All right. So I found this practice, which was what they call discursive, which means your guided visualized meditation. So there was always something to do with my mind. So, the
Yeah.
example, you would ground your energy. So you're visualizing tree roots into the earth. And then, you would stabilize and you would pour liquid gold in the top of your head. And
Oh, I like that.
that's a really nice one. It just cleans everything out. And then the practice that was so profound, well, they had you open your heart and breathe through your heart. And the heart, I see you without judgment. And it doesn't mean I don't have discernment because we know, in the Hindu practices, Kali, she slices off the head of illusion, right? She says we can't be in your mental illusioned body, your ego world.
Yes.
And she just goes after it. But so the heart is not naive, but it doesn't, if you judge from the heart, it's going to shut down. And so they had us breathe and open our heart. And then the best practice, and this one I'm going to talk about slowly because it's a real practice that maybe your listeners can appreciate and value for themselves. What we did is we grounded our energy, we cleaned out with this pitcher full of, liquid gold, cleaning. And the grounding allows all the gunk to just go into the earth and compost. So you're not
Mm.
holding it in your system. And with Qigong, that's a wonderful deep practice from the Chinese model and the Asian model. And it's all about sinking your qi into sinking it down so you can
Oh,
get the other flow up.
yeah.
And so you need this downward flow in order to establish the lift and the support. So in the Sufi practice, they said, be in the center of your head, not right here where worry is and thinking and
Right.
planning. And that was transformative for me And went to this school. I was there going 7 times a week. I'd go to morning class, afternoon class. I got a job in a fruit stand so I could, have my hours early in the morning. And then I would go off to my training ground. And it was so, uh, I was so grateful. I could even feel the tears. I was so grateful, Melissa, that I was not going to go crazy.
Yes.
If anyone's been close to that, it
Yeah.
is terrifying.
It is.
It's
That's the part that makes it all so bad, because when you're unraveling like that, it
Yeah,
feels like this is the end and there is no coming back from it. And getting any sort of information that makes it better like that,
right? It's
it
like,
is
oh,
so profound. Yeah.
yeah. So I felt like I was learning the practices about my vow to feel this much love inside. I had to stay in my body, right?
Yeah.
And not just in my upper brain that got so worried. So they said, imagine now that you're, sitting and grounded, and you have your feet on the floor, so the soles of your feet are open and the energy can come down. Then what they have you do is imagine a line right through your ear height, and you go side to side, and you feel the sensation side to side until boing, there's the middle. And then, okay, I've got my horizontal middle. Then they make an axis out of it, a matrix. So then you're going to go, I'm going to turn so you can see it from the center of the forehead out the base of the occiput. And that's
Wow.
because this is where some of the spinal support for the weight of the head is.
Yeah.
And so then you go forward and back on the diagonal. So you would go, okay, I'm too far forward. Oh, now I'm too far back. Okay, where is middle? And roughly there's an intersection place in the brain. I didn't know it at the time because I was studying it from a meditative place. Now, from neuroscience, I know that that's actually where the pineal gland is, which is what helps us with visualization, dream,
Mhm.
balancing sleep, light and dark. And I became so good at visualizing and listening. What this school did is it gave me the reminder that your spiritual answers come from within with the right kind of support. You have to do your practices because we're all a mess,
Sure.
based life.
Sure.
Yeah, we have
Yeah.
our own karma woven all around us.
Mhm.
But if we can stabilize and be in that clarity, the sixth chakra, because they also had clean out your chakras, so we would do visualizations of the root chakra. And you go in there and you go, oh, this room isn't very pretty. And you make a room and you redecorate your first chakra, then your second chakra. You go all the way up the chakras. And the sixth chakra is about clear seeing. And so it's not your projections, it's not your worries, it's just clear seeing. And so from the center of the head, now this is a practice I renamed it blink blink. You can call it what you want, but it clears this limbic brain, which is where our emotional habits and patterns live. If I'm going to take and what it does with this practice is you put as if you had a little, you have your space first. I call this your hula hoop. So you have enough breathing room. You're not having everybody's energy coming into you, and you're not
Yeah.
leaving yourself to take care of everybody. You're just here, and you have your breathing room, you have your hula hoop, and you're not cut off. You're just allowing your energy to fill up the space right outside you as well as here. And that's what people feel first, as they feel your sort of energetic self. And if that's grounded and clear and available, then if something's coming too close, you could just do a little, You say, I will meet you, but I'll meet you where I still have some breathing room.
Hey guys, it's me. Emotionally Unavailable is produced 100% in-house by me with no team. So if this show has ever helped you and you want to give back, subscribe to the Patreon. There's several different levels with different benefits in each. Check the show notes and you can see what each tier subscription will get you. I also plan to spruce there's also lots of fun things coming down the pipeline for the Patreon subscribers. So get in early. You can get a workbook, you can buy merch, you can do any of the things, and all of that supports the show to help it keep going. Really appreciate every single one of you. I love you so much, and I can't wait to see what we continue to do together.
I'm not going to meet you right here.
Right.
Yeah. Or I'm not going to have to jump out and meet you in all this fun, spiritualized
Yeah.
union. Yeah. So this school, was brilliant methodology. And what you do, this blink, blink practice, and people can go to my Instagram account and see it. It actually went viral. It's just a 1-minute video. It had 160,000 views and it's still going around, but it's on Instagram. They have those little bubbles at the top and it's up there and it says blink, blink. So people can find it. But what you
Wow.
do, yeah, is you imagine a movie screen and you put on the movie screen, you ask a question. When did I first get my feelings hurt? Or how come I, guard myself against other people? You just ask those questions. You don't need to know the answer mentally. And you just see what shows up. And what's so interesting is something will come out of yourself and give you some insight. It could be an event you completely forgot happened.
Yep.
And then like, oh, that was the moment my uncle slapped my face when I, squeezed the bone horn when he told me not to.
Yes.
It could be something that simple. But what you do is you put it out there, and this is what re-empowers you to not be just living your past over and over again. Because that's what we do. If we
Yep.
don't clear it, we live it. And so what you do is and it could be some people, will see pictures. Other people will just have obsessive thoughts or they'll have sound. You just put it outside of your hula hoop. You might call that your auric field. And you put it outside and you take the information. So you're aware and then you dynamite it. You literally blow it up. Now, what this does is it's a little bit of a power impulse and it frees the frozen image, that energy, the emotional, psychic energy gets frozen into thought structures. And what you're
Yeah.
releasing the thought structure so that the energy, you just breathe in your own energy and you release. Like I let go of my uncle slapping my face. Who cares? Right? It was just such an impact as a young kid, but you just let it go. And all of a sudden, you're more present.
Yeah.
You're more able to tolerate little things. You're not obsessing. And I think it's really, I have a lot of my own geeky integrative ideas about how do we function as wonderful temples and as human beings and as grounded, practical, common sense people, right? We can't be living in the spiritual world.
Right. As tempting as it may be sometimes. I mean, there's been times when I like it here and I don't know why I have to leave this bubble, but I know the answer to that. So I leave the bubble, but also really what you're highlighting too. And this has been a heavier topic of conversation recently, but, why hygiene is important, why you have to pick one thing at least to do a small practice before you reach panic attack. Like
Oh,
that
like,
I keep giving off, offering these tools for how to get out of a spiral, and there's nothing wrong with that. When you're first starting a practice, for sure, you're still going to spiral. And I mean, I have times where a spiral will start. I have great tools for that. So that never goes away. I'm not saying it does.
Mhm.
But if we can understand that preventative care is important, and that if even if that practice feels like it would take too long, there's others, like, but we have to do daily things to keep our nervous system in check and in a
You're so
little bit of a
right.
balance and a flow of give and take and safety, because
Mhm.
that's so much what you're describing too, is all those years of feeling so unsafe in your body. That's why we disconnect from it at such a young age.
Yeah. I love that you're highlighting this because practice is all it is a shaping of choice.
Yes, I
So,
like that.
yeah, you are shaping the ability to choose how you're going to be in the world and ultimately what comes your way in a good way. I don't, again, I don't like the phrases that are spiritualized. Well, you created your reality. Well,
Right.
on one level, there's a grain of truth in that. It's what you're vibrating. And this is where, Melissa, I like to go all the way back to precognitive experience. And that means before you could think, it means
Yes.
even prenatally in the womb,
Yes.
all around the birth itself. I have a book, Birth's Hidden Legacy, and I have another one, The Developing Infant. And, this early shaping of our experience sets a filter. And we're going to keep using that filter under stress, especially
Yes.
if we survive by dissociating.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll tell you this much, as a therapist, I've really had to hone my skills for the people who dissociate for their coping. Like, I'm married to someone who does that too, but I I intimately understand overthinking and, like, you know, just anxious and, overwhelmed and all of that and agitated. I understand that to my DNA, but I've
Right.
really had to put myself in that understanding to, well, I mean, it's all the same thing and I get that, but really, like, I had to start looking at it from a bird's eye view to understand how to explain what was happening and how to get out of it for these people. It's going much better now to be able to, like, because I have to explain why the tools work. Like,
People want
they
to,
never believe me.
right? They want to know. I have to explain all the time. How is it adults can actually have a felt sense of their infant experience? I mean, that sounds so weird, but I can tell you, I've been a therapist for 45 years and I still love my work because I got my hula hoop. I know how to clear out and I
Yeah.
teach people to hold their own story without it just becoming an obsessive loop.
Yes.
How to feel their body and interrupt what you're talking about. You had to really take hold of your tools and practice them. And that's what I think good therapy is teaching people how to do that in a way they can understand.
Yes.
They have to feel like there's some hope. So,
That's exactly right. Yeah.
yeah,
Because when you've done the same thing over and over and over and over, and you tried so hard to use that finite amount of willpower that you're given on a daily basis to
right.
muscle your way through it, and nothing's working, and
Yeah,
you're exhausted from trying, yeah,
yeah,
it's easy to feel hopeless.
it is. And that's why I really like, I'll look at, and with as a therapist, a psychologist, I'll look at anywhere along of somebody's life journey. If they're talking about this event, but what I'm listening for is the echo all the way back to their primitive nervous system when it first decided, is the world safe?
Right.
Am I going to survive?
Right.
A- Am I going to survive in relationship? And then are you going to keep me safe? Because that's what an infant
Yes.
figuring out. And the way an infant understands it is something bad happens and it hurts my body, well, the world is bad. Or maybe
Mhm.
I'm bad because they left me to cry in the crib.
Yep.
I'm bad because why did they leave me here? I
Mhm.
find these people who are adopted that they have a deep-seated fear that there's something wrong with them, but they
Yeah.
don't even know what it is.
Defective, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's the thing you wanna get to the roots of and I call it teasing apart the shock. And this is where that dissociation and the tendency to go back to the spirit world, because I think the soul, if the body is too unhappy, too in pain, an infant will go into infant depression. I was in the incubator.
Mm.
Tell you, I realized I had infant depression because I couldn't find my mom. I didn't have any touch for 17 days. Only touch
Oh.
they had, yeah, it was, like, too much, and the only touch was they'd take my foot and prick my heel to get some blood,
So
so I
touch was dangerous and painful.
yeah, and so then I had this startle reflex because I would zone out. What a baby will do,
Yes.
you've raised kids, the baby will cry out if it needs something. "I'm cold and wet, I need a diaper change. I'm hungry. I'm bored, come get me." Right? Babies will vocalize. And then mothers first I wanna say mothers they don't have to feel guilty. There's no
Right.
feeling guilty as a mother. You can have regrets, that's okay. You can, know more now than you knew then and wish it was different, but please don't carry around guilt or self-attack. Because what that does, it actually makes you less available relationally
Yep.
in present time. And if you've got kids, at some point they're gonna, want to get mad at you and be mad at you for what you did, not perfect. And that's okay if you can listen for the grain of truth of what they're complaining about and still hold your dignity and say, yeah, I was this, 17-year-old mom. I didn't know any better.
Right.
Right? You tell them whatever it is. Or, I listened to the medical doctors that wanted to keep you away from me so I could rest after the birth. I didn't know any better, and I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
But you say, "I'm sorry," without guilt.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually just had a super profound conversation like that with my oldest because um I think his problem really is that he is so forgiving of all of my misgivings and he sees so clearly that I was raising myself at the same time because I was 22 when I had him.
Yeah,
Um so he is so forgiving, but he has never dealt with any of that stuff. Like he's been in therapy and whatever, but there's just deeper stuff there that I think he's been afraid to really acknowledge. And we had this moment the other day, and I have also had some struggles with this level of vulnerability with him where I say the stuff I really want to say, not just I'm sorry and da da da, but like really walking him through, in essence, the things I have to say to myself all the time to comfort myself, and it started with the understanding that I was always special and I was always perfect, exactly how I was, that my parents being addicts and abandoning and all the things had nothing to do with me. And
yeah,
so I was saying that to him, and I've always been so afraid to get that emotional and just like in touch and whatever. And it was this beautiful experience where I got to be like, you were a perfect little boy. You were special. Like everything about you was so perfect.
yeah.
It had nothing to do with you. I just didn't know what I was doing?
And when you can do that in honest authenticity, boy, does it repair the
It
heart.
does. You feel the energetic shift. And so the thing is that we lost my middle son in December.
Oh, I'm so
Um,
sorry.
thank you. So it was a synthetic opioid overdose, and so it was traumatic, and we're going through the things. And so I was noticing like how that's manifesting for him, and so that's why we were talking about that as some relational stuff between him and his sister. But um we started talking last night because I have a schizophrenic brother. My older brother's schizophrenic. And
Yeah, my cousin is. It's a
it's oh,
tragedy.
it is. Yeah, because he flipped. He had his break when he was 19 years old. My son that we just lost was almost 19.
Uh-huh.
And so my oldest is in school for psychology, and he texted me out of the blue at like 11:30 last night. That's why I was like, "Oh my God, this conversation's so well timed." Because he said, "I just found out that perinatal hypoxia can lead to schizophrenia later," however he worded that. And I was
Well,
like, "Oh, I have not, heard that," because my clinical stuff is in social work. So, of
yeah,
course I did the basic psychology and whatever, but I didn't know that. So, I thought that was interesting, but he said, "I wonder if we would have seen this with Jakey because he had, and my brother did have a traumatic birth. They held my mom's legs together for like an hour waiting for a doctor to get there. I mean, and he
right.
was like crowning.
Yeah.
And so, and with my son, I was begging for a C-section because I pushed for 2 hours. He wasn't, coming out. They used forceps, and then it took them a bit to get him to breathe. It's not like, it's not like he was
So they
code
have,
blue or whatever, but yeah. So he wasn't responsive right away. And I knew, and that was such a traumatic experience for me. And I didn't have the language for it. It changed me. Like already I walked into that with so much PTSD, CPTSD from childhood. And
yeah.
then that birth experience just messed me up. And then I always thought it messed him up a little bit too, and I was in grad school when I was pregnant with him, which was also chaotic. So, like, there was so much of that.
Yeah.
But I have, like, always wanted, because he was very ADHD and on the spectrum, and my problem when he was little, I had no trust in anyone. I
Of
was so
course,
scared of
right?
everyone,
Well,
Yeah. So I didn't listen to anything anyone said because I intuitively did know, though, you're not seeing the bigger picture here. No one's listening whenever I say, well, because I went through a divorce when he was, like, a little under 2. We moved houses, so there's that stuff, but I'm also like, but also there's these birth factors, and I don't,
well,
like, I
listen,
felt embarrassed to talk about it.
well, you were saying something I want to take some time with here because it's so important. My specialty now, I train therapists to actually listen at this level and to always find out as much as they can about how somebody was born. And I have this, 2-volume set that
Wow.
I wrote, and this is not about being a mom giving birth. This is about what happened to you during birth. And so volume 1 has case studies. I have decades and decades of helping people. And volume 2 is all about for therapists. How do you think about how this experience actually, this physical reality experience, influence the psychology and the psyche and the fear and the panic and the protectiveness
Mhm.
of a person at such a young experience? Because I'm going to break this into little pieces. Because first off, sometimes even starting to talk about birth, if somebody had a difficult birth, their nervous system will want to dissociate.
Mhm.
I don't want to hear it. I don't want to feel it. I survived, and it was so bad.
Yeah.
So first, let's talk about why we dissociate and how it helps us survive. Because anytime there's too much sensory stimulation, either from inside or coming from outside, our processing ability can't handle it. And so what will happen is we'll try to fight it, or we'll try to run away from it. It's like pressure. Fight the pressure, run away from the pressure. If we can't do either, we kind of have we just stop. And this is when you start holding your breath and say, this is the prayer symbol, but it's also the frozen symbol if
Yeah.
you're not breathing. And so once the body starts shutting down, the mental body takes over because we can't move physically because we're frozen. So we
Yeah.
move mentally and we speed up. And some people will withdraw into a cave. and they don't know how to get back out, and some people will actually dissociate and hover in the air like I did when I, let go of the ladder. And some people will actually they'll withdraw into the cave. They'll fight, and when they start fighting and you're frozen, what happens is I call it a kind of dissociation I call fragmentation. It's highly creative, highly gifted, it's fun. And what happens is you take that freeze response, and if you're adding more energy, just think of in our nervous system, we have the ability to healthily move and play, and we have the ability to healthily rest, digest, recover. And our nervous system lives in the balance. We can go back and forth in health. But what happens when we get overwhelmed is we freeze, and then the fight response wants to keep us alive. And so if more energy comes and you're frozen, it would be like taking a rock and throwing it at a mirror. And then you would break into pieces, all shiny,
Yes.
creative pieces. And why that is so, and this, Melissa, I'm going to be curious how you incorporate this into your therapy to help others. Because if you have people who fragment, as a therapist, it's almost like you're trying to follow their story. They are jumping from one thing to the next. And it's exhausting as a therapist.
Yeah.
That's why therapists get burnt out. But if you can, and I train therapists so that they can love their career. Yeah. And so if you're frozen, more energy comes and you fragment, it's brilliant because if you think of predator prey, the predator doesn't know which piece to chase. And
Yeah.
one part of you's going to survive. Hooray!
Mhm.
So you have to heal that, though. I used to do that, and it's what gave me, highly creative and spiritual access, and I loved it. But once I understood I was doing it, I had to make another vow that I can't do this anymore, even if I lose my connection with spirit. That was my fear. I would lose-
Oh, yeah. Oh, I could see that. But see, you're making a great point because this is why spiritual bypassing is so dangerous. And
Yes.
and why you have to, if you're going to listen to people who are teaching you, you have to find people who are grounded and rooted in truth, because there are way too many people out there, and even in a not even nurturing way sometimes, with the just like, but you know better. So you're just not good enough with your spiritual being
Yeah.
to be able to go through that. And I'm like, gross. I mean, spirituality is my foundation now, but like, cause once you awaken, it's just like, it
You
just
can't
is
go
so
back.
much a part of who you are. You know what I mean? But
But
like, I'm also a human first.
right. And that's, I think, the journey is to come into the body,
Mm-hmm.
and have your spirituality be in your life from within. And that's why I keep getting a phone call. Let me turn this off. It's just bugging me. Go away. Technology is not my favorite thing. I love it because we can talk. But
Yeah.
yeah. But so here is this thing, where if someone fragments into the spiritualized, creative, what you want to do as a therapist and for yourself eventually, but as a therapist, I'll say, okay, I'm going to go out to the edge of the universe. And I just keep my hands close because you can't see them. But basically, I put my hands all the way out as far as I can reach. And I say, I'm going to go out to the edge of the universe and hold some nice cotton gloves so no part of you gets lost. And sometimes people will start crying.
Oh,
This is
yeah.
cool. They've been so exhausted from jumping. And all of a sudden, what I'm doing is I'm providing what's called containment. In
Yeah.
psychology, we have sort of the ability to express, but containment is also important.
Yes.
And so the containment, I'll gradually bring my hands in, and I'm literally kind of pressing space around a person, and they actually start to feel themselves in a different way. And then for some people, it's like the first time they've knit back together.
Yeah.
And we'll just sit there and I'll let them have that experience. And I'll say, you're wired to fragment and dissociate because something happened that was too much for you. But now to heal, your adult self has to take charge of this and bring yourself back. Every time you start to fragment and you notice, oh, I'm speeding up and being, oh, where I'm, lost in the spiritual trance. Oh, come back. And I think what we're doing is we're actually in dialogue with our soul, that we are teaching our soul that we want the soul in the body to shine out our eyes,
Yeah.
to empower us to live life. And if, a baby has a difficult experience like your son, like, me in the incubator, like anybody who's gotten stuck or a C-section is so fast. There's lots I can say. This volume 1 has all the implications of those different experiences, kind of from being able to think as an adult about an infant perspective.
Yeah.
If you think of sensory, the infant does not have context. They don't know I'm in the incubator today, but tomorrow I'll be with my mom.
Right.
They think it's forever. And that's why you can have infant depression or
Yeah.
or a baby put in jaundice lights can feel
I've
like
thought about that because it's so sad.
it and some things it's, medically necessary. This is the tension. Women have given birth for eons of time, and often in a non-medical situation with midwives and support, and sometimes mothers die and sometimes babies die. So then in the Western, we've gone to a model of we don't want our babies to die or our mothers, so we'll do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
And that can create an interruption of connection and safety, trust. Is the world safe? Can I trust you to keep me safe? So when there's invasive procedures like a forceps or vacuum suction, the physical being baby feels threatened, and they feel extreme pressure. And I think babies can even feel like they're going to die during a birth.
Oh, I bet. And all three of my kids actually the forceps were used.
Well, what you can do, the good news, and I've spent decades helping people recover their body, recover themselves from that impression being so big. It's just a moment in time. That's what birth is a moment in time. And the Buddhists, they call it the crashing of mountains. It is huge forces. So it's like an initiation journey,
Yeah.
and if people can befriend it instead of avoid it. Like I had one woman who she was born with forceps and her mother was given this, chemical cocktail that made her forget everything. And this adult woman, she was in her late 40s, early 50s when I worked with her. She had she had obsessive lists of everything because her mother was given what's called scopolamine, and
Oh, yeah.
that's a memory blocker. So here's this baby inside of mother experiencing loss of, connection. Where am I? Where did mom go? Did mom die? She's not
Mhm.
moving anymore. These are, sensory signals because for 9 months, the baby grows up in the movement field of the mother. The movement field, the sound, the rest cycle, all of this is a transmission into the baby. And again, mothers don't have to be perfect. You just have to understand, oh, that's the wiring. That's why my
Right.
kid is,
And like you said earlier, I didn't wanna, Sorry, I had a pop-up I had to take care of. I didn't wanna rush past this too much. I wanna highlight something you said earlier, where those feelings of remorse and regret, the woulda, shoulda, couldas, they're natural to come up. But when,
Yes.
if you ruminate on it, it's not gonna be any better for you than guilt. But allow that to be present. Like, you can contain that. You can let that hurt your heart a little bit because it does. I mean,
Sure.
especially after losing this child,
Oh, I bet.
there's
I bet.
thousands of things that I could in a very logical way look back and say I could probably have made these decisions differently, and a lot of I wish I would have, a lot of I wish I'd have known, I wish this. That's why I'm grateful for my spiritual beliefs, because that halts all of that. Like, I'll allow it, and then I'm like, and then we wouldn't be who we are now, if and I wouldn't have
Yeah.
taken the path to enlightenment that I did if I had had all the answers then. And so, I understand what the truth is, but I'm human, and it's easy to go, man, I wish, and it does hurt. It hurts so bad, but I allow that and then I move on.
Well, what you're saying is really, really important because those feelings will come up. We don't want to pretend they don't.
Right.
But we don't want to, what I call, you have to kind of stay on the surfboard of awareness and
Yeah.
you can let those feelings come up, but you're strong enough cognitively to tell yourself, wait a minute, I did the best I could.
Mhm.
I knew at the time.
Yep.
My son has his own karma. I'm not
Yes.
like, the surrender prayer, all the 12 steps. It's about, give it up. You're not in charge. And all of that, you stay on the surfboard. It's very wobbly to feel the discomfort of these emotions, but not to fall into the mess of them.
Right.
That's why I call it staying on the surfboard. And literally, Melissa, what's happening is when you allow the feelings to off gas, I call it off gassing, you're literally letting it come out of the body because it's usually unprocessed emotions.
Yep.
It comes up, it comes out, and it will pass. And that's the clarity of learning to surf life.
Mhm.
Life is never going to be just roses. It's
No.
gonna knock you around just because we got our things. And so I'm so first off, I just feel my poignant tenderness for your experience.
Thank you.
Losing, I mean, nobody who hasn't lost a loved one knows, and especially a mom with a child or a dad with a child. It's a profound spiritual journey, really.
Yes.
And for you to be able to grieve and understand and hold stable for your children who are also navigating the loss of their sibling.
Mhm.
That's what God asks us to do. How do we shine the light that's real, honest, grounded, and it's not, giving people, you should be doing this.
Right, right. Yeah, I felt really passionate immediately about being very open
Mm.
about what my grief process looks like. And also, I mean, if I didn't have the spiritual beliefs that I have, I probably would never have made it through this because my former self was a basket case.
Right?
And so I would have been the thing that destroyed what was left of my family for sure.
Yeah.
Um, But I wanna be the light for them, for myself, for them, and then us show that to others, like, it is possible. Because this was my worst fear. Specifically for
Mm.
him, I've worried about this since the day he was born. Something in me just knew. You know
Well,
what I mean?
things is knowing, and I want to, how did, there's so much I'm just feeling and sensing here of what to share with your people, right? That can be helpful. And so right now we're talking about the stabilizing ability to grieve and to stay present. And, I lost my husband 3 months after we were married, and he was like the
Oh.
love of my life when I was 35, 36. And, I had to go through that. whole process of my life completely unraveled. We're getting ready to have children. We had just bought some land. We were going to build a house, live on this island. And
You have had so many completely life-shattering events.
yeah, I feel so grateful for whatever. I attribute this to my mom and my dad, the kind of love they had, even though my dad died when I was little. Somehow I could feel it all the way back from conception.
Yeah.
There's stuff there. And then my mom's faith and heart, and she was a social worker. So
Oh, how fun.
she taught us kids to, not have big egos about better than others and how to all chip in and help with the kitchen and, do the chores. And we're still all real close because of that. And
I
I'm
love
so,
that.
yeah. And my mom, she was a first city councilwoman on our little tiny Oakland Park where we lived. And she was a New Yorker, so she had chutzpah.
Oh,
And
she yeah.
Well, she grew up in the settlement houses where everybody did theater and art and, played together. So she had a love of community. I'll tell one mom story just because it's so fun. The developer near our, when you grow up in a sort of rural area and they start developing, they just want to take over all the land and put houses.
Yes.
And so there was this little creek that went through under a bridge to this canal, which went through to the back of our house. And we swam in the canal, and we sailed our little sailboat, and we always knew this watershed was connected all the way out to the ocean. And we knew that because we lived there, we bicycled, we went. And my brothers had boats, and they went, all the way to the ocean, scared my mom. They're out in this little
I
boat.
bet.
Yeah. And so the developers are like, no, we're just going to bulldoze it in. And my mom tells my brothers, I wasn't at the house anymore. I was up in Maine. But she says, get me 2 coconuts. And so she got some spray paint and she spray painted them pink and green. So they really showed up, hot pink and green. And then she had my brothers ride their bicycle out to the bridge where the waterway was going to the ocean and also into the canal and drop them. And then she said, okay, next 2 weeks, you ride your bike to this little place where the little creek goes under the bridge. And then there's a place where it eddies right there before it goes to the canal. And every day for 2 weeks, my brothers are looking for those coconuts. And sure enough, they show up, which proves the water is connected. And my mom took it into evidence for the city council and beat the developers. And we were so proud of her. She was the first environment.
Yes.
Yeah. And why I
Mm.
say that is sometimes you have to listen, like you said, Melissa, that you always had an instinct there was something with your son's birth. There was something, wow, I wish somebody would listen to me and we could work with this. And that's what I want therapists to know. It's you gotta learn how to get down there because it's not easy.
Yeah.
Defend against it. And without proper training, therapists will listen for everything, but they won't know to listen to you and say, well, what was it like, Melissa? What do you think he went through? And help what the healing is, what physically is happening in the healing journey is these shocking experiences that grip our body and they grip our mind and our emotions. If you can go back with slowing down enough to let discomfort off gas, to understand as an adult who's cognitive, oh, that was my terrified infant. Oh, that was the moment the cord was around my neck and I couldn't get out. And now
Yeah.
I always get into power struggles with people where that's after birth. Oh, I was in the nursery. So I never celebrate completions because I know what's coming isn't fun. These are templates of experience that are so hardwired in our brainstem because we're at the infant state, which is so perceptive without context.
Yeah.
So we can make all kinds of demons up, right? We
Yeah,
don't
because
know.
you're gonna fill in the blanks.
You are. And I call this existential shock. It's the type of awareness that's linked to the all there is. Because for an infant, all there is their sensory, they don't have cognition yet or contact. Like if you have a baby, your baby's happy and you get into a room with other babies and one of them starts crying, why they all start crying? Because it's,
Yeah.
right? It's the energy that they take. So as an adult, I say this for all your listeners, if you have like the deep depression or the deep hopelessness or the I have to fix it, you have these big views, that could be existential shock. And most therapists don't know how to treat it. I just worked with a woman in her 50s and we did one session. She goes, oh my gosh, I've been looking through this my whole life. And what we did with we took her experience and we said, what if we're going to get bigger than the big empty black hole you've had an eating disorder to avoid, you're escaping from because it's too scared. It's too big.
Yes. Yeah.
And that is usually the infant's experience. They don't have a healthy adult to mirror neuron that they're safe. And so they get lost in it. But what you can do, just like I went out to the edge of the universe and brought the fragments back, with existential feeling, you take the sides of that big, vast, depressive, or exciting, you take it and you start condensing it. So instead of it being huge and bigger than you actually use your body, your hands, your grounded feet, and you start taking this whole thing. And, you want to spend a little time with it. Like, is it gray? Is it cold? Is it how big? Is it hot? And you want to go out to the edges. And then you start condensing it and you bring it into a place where you are bigger than it. All of a
Mm.
sudden, this big thing you've been afraid of your whole life is now manageable. And you can work with it. You can put it on the shelf so it's not always, derailing you. You can get it down and befriend it. Hello there. That was when you were lost as an infant. You didn't know what to do. I'm here.
Mhm.
And slowly, slowly, this story will come out. What happens, I love this in the healing, is this story starts connecting the dots of life experience. You go, that's why I was doing that.
And
Oh,
then you see
that's
that's
it.
where it started, and I've repeated this pattern so many times.
Yeah, and so it starts to bring stabilizing understanding.
Mhm.
And then the work as I didn't know how to turn my phone off. The work as yeah, as you start to do the repetitive good practice where you have to get a little stop sign out in your back pocket and you stop yourself to pause, slow down, pay attention, and not go along the habit of your old behavior. Because that
Yes.
habit is literally a path carved in the brain that says, this is what I do to survive. I have to go this way. And so it takes courage to slow down and to remember, just like, you'll get a ticket if you keep driving through stop signs or you'll get killed. You,
Right.
you gotta stop. And in that stop, that's where you begin to have choice again. And you can breathe, you can look around and realize, wait a minute, my life isn't under life threat right now. Or wait, I'm just having a grief moment. It's okay. And you just can reorganize and stay present with your heart and your gut and your intelligence, your brain, and you start to stay integrated. And when any adult starts doing that, they take this existential shock and they can shrink it down, and then they can listen. What's the hidden story? And I work with 4-year-old children a lot in my clinic, 8-year-olds, teenagers, as well as adults, families. And these 4-year-olds will show me their birth story.
Wow.
One little girl, I tell these stories a lot if people have heard me before, but they're so poignant and so brilliant. This one little girl, I didn't know what her story was yet, but her mother phones me and she goes, I don't know what's happening, but my daughter, she was great. We have, good enough family. And when she got to preschool, she would grab another kid and she would take that kid and put him behind a barricade. She'd make like a place in the pillows or something. And she would not let the girl get out.
Oh my
So
gosh.
now she's got the girl with her. And then the teachers have to bust in and get the kid. And then she would have this huge emotional meltdown. And
Oh
then,
my God.
right? My mom's like, what the hell is going on?
I'm just picturing that.
Right? And so I don't know. I said, okay, bring her in. Let's see. And I used to have a clinic I ran for 17 years, and we had great therapists there. And I had an office I just loved, big 12 by 12. So I had lots of places where you could move, you could sit in the pillows, you could play puzzles, all kinds of stuff. And this girl, and then in the corner of my office, there was a door to another office. And so I put soundproof up between the doors. And I had a little Japanese folding panel, those 3-paneled things that stand up, was hiding that door. So the girl comes in, she's 4, she's bright as can be, blah, 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 blah. Her mom's there. And she walks around my office and she goes right behind the Japanese folding panel. And then so I can't see her. And then I'm like, I hear this sound, rip, rip. And I go, oh, hey, what are you doing back there? And she goes, and she was taking the tape and she was taping up the little tiny crack between the 3 panels so that there was no openings between her wall of protection. And she says to me, very important work, and don't you come in. I was like, oh, I bet this is a C-section. I bet you were born C-section. And she had her mom come back. She insisted her mom get back there with her. So now I'm on the outside. She's got her mom, and she's not going to let anybody come in and take her away or separate them. And that's what a C-section is. It's an
Yeah.
abrupt separation. And, any mother who's had it, I want to say 2 things. One is not your fault, first off. Maybe I want to say 3 things. And also, did you get a chance to finish your birth push? Because think about all that energy that wants to push that baby out, and then there's a C-section. It never got completed.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a free PDF. I have a free PDF library full of articles. But the top menu bar says, birth trauma, birth mama. There's articles in there. One of them, and they're short articles, so you can read them. Most of them are short. But there's one-page article that says, how to finish your birth push. And I've done this with mothers online. I was working with a mother up in, Washington State. And it's the idea that your body has to complete through your feet and your legs the power that never moved through. So I had this mom sitting with her back against a big solid, soft chair to hold her and had her feet on the baseboard. And we were working together so she could feel herself now. And then all the grief started to come up about the C-section,
Yeah.
and I was like, okay, let's stay present. You're doing great. Of course you're going to grieve. Now we want you reconnected in your body with that power all the way through your hips and your legs. And those are the, Chinese meridians go right down into those legs and bring energy back up to support. So when that incision gets there, it interrupts that whole cycle of supportive energy. So
Yeah.
so I've helped lots of women recover that. And what happens is they have a little more power and potency with their baby, with their child sometimes. Like I've had 3-year-olds in my office want to be part of that, and the mom wanted them part of it. So they're sitting on the floor next to the mom, and the mom was like, "Oh, there's my power. Okay, there's my legs. Now I'm here." And then she can look at her kid and go, "Yeah, honey, we're doing this life."
Yeah. Oh,
So,
I love that.
yeah. So this little girl, she showed me every step. That they had placenta previa, so the mom couldn't give birth vaginally. And this girl, she showed me with my little red tunnel that kids can crawl through. What I'll have moms do is sit on the outside of the tunnel and put their hand on the fabric and have the child touch their head against mama's hand through the tunnel, because that seems to recreate connection, at that, primal level. But this little girl, and then I have a pop up tent that I put at one end of the tunnel and I cover it with a blanket so the kids can have a safe space. They'll sit in there and then they'll crawl out the tunnel and then they'll go back. Well, this girl got in a panic. She could not tell which end of the tunnel she wanted her mom to sit on. And think about C-section. You're headed down,
Yeah.
out, and then the placenta previa, she can't get through. And so then everything reverses and she gets pulled away from her mom. So of course she's confused. And so she had a panic moment, this 4-year-old. And the mom was, "Oh my gosh." And I had to help the mom realize that if she didn't embrace the fact of the C-section, she would have had a dead baby. And, the mom was, blaming herself and wishing it could have been like her other kids' births. And I was saying, wait a minute, hold on. You either want a live baby or you want a dead baby.
Right. Well,
And then,
and if it was placenta previa, it would have killed you too.
exactly, right? Mhm. And so that empowered her to realize, oh, that's right. And then she could say to her daughter, yes, I chose a C-section because I wanted a live baby. And that created a whole relaxation in the girl where she could trust her mom's choices.
Mhm.
So it was beautiful. That's where I feel the grace of God showing me the intelligence of these children. And
Yes, that you're
if,
attuned. Yeah.
yeah, and if therapists can learn these skills, they're not that hard to learn. You do have to go through the territory of your own listening to what was your own story. So you
Yes.
empathy and the understanding and the recovery. You're not left in shock imprints and patterns. Then you can really, really help others. And I am passionate about training therapists to do this kind of play therapy. Because if we can help our little ones finish those stories, and this little girl went back to preschool and she was fine. She didn't do that anymore. She had integrated the whole thing until she felt safe. She wasn't mad at the doctor anymore, trying to be more powerful than the doctor or the teacher or whatever. She
Yeah.
could relax. So any therapists out there, come see me. I will have a play therapy class I lead online every fall. And it shows you how do you actually get to these stories with children or, children, growing children, even back with adults. But if you learn how to deal with kids, it's so much easier to deal with adults.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I
Yeah.
totally agree.
Yeah. So
Well, I have loved having
what's
you. You
going on?
are amazing.
I,
Tell us where we can find you, and I know you said you had other things for your free
yeah,
offers as
I'll just
well, so
name
tell us
them
all
and
the
then
things.
I'll do all of that. I want people to know first off that my name is Annie Brook, and Brook is spelled Brook. So it's ANNIE Brook. So you go to anybrook.com. It's that simple. Just my
Easy
name.
peasy.
Yep. And then on there, you've got a free PDF library. One thing I really hope you'll use, we'll send you a link. Melissa's going to give you a little section with links and stuff. There's a Clear Your Head toolkit. This is for those obsessive thoughts. This is for those ruminations where you're, or I also have a thing for self-attack thinking. I'll include that link. But if you can
Love it.
start interrupting Clear Your Head toolkit, it'll give you that blink practice. It'll give you ways to just what we've been talking about. Use the tools. And then I have also a free master therapy kit. So therapists can start thinking, how do I actually work with embodied awareness as part of my treatment understanding? So I might do talk therapy, but I can layer this in because there's a lot a person can do sitting in a chair.
Mm-hmm.
Like people can breathe, they can orient, you can teach them to notice. And so AnnieBrook.com, you can get me on Instagram, Annie Brook Therapy. I have a YouTube channel. So Melissa will give you all those links. But do go in and browse around. I do individual sessions. I have trained therapists who do sessions at a lower fee. And I do in-person events. I'm doing one in Spain in August and in San Francisco.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's land and water because I also work in the warm water. So I love sharing this. I love that, Melissa, you've been able to help people be grounded in their spirituality and real life.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate you so much. I can't wait. I'd love to have you back too. So
Sure, I have, we can chat on with lots of good stuff. I
heck
enjoy
yeah.
your
I feel like
presence.
I've made a new friend.
I feel that way
Okay,
too.
I'm going to press stop if you'll hang out for 1 sec.
Okay.
Thanks for coming to Emotionally Unavailable. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, and share. Emotionally Unavailable. All right, that's it from me. So make sure that you check out the show notes for links. And until next time, let's all just keep swimming.
INDEPE and cut.